Am I audible, sir?
Yeah, you're audible and visible both.
Assalamu alaikum, good evening. Welcome you all to our virtual academic program of the gynecological malignancy. The challenges and solutions in gynecological cancer patients. Our today's faculty is Dr. Shahin Sultana Mukta. She is MSc student of Obstetrics and Gynecology College and Hospital, and our presenting medical college today is the Chattogram Medical College and Hospital. Our overseas faculties today, Professor Dr. Amita Maheshwari. She is professor and head Department of Gynecological Oncology, Tata Memorial Hospital, Mumbai. And she is also the president-elect in Association of Gynecological Oncologists of India. Dr. Professor U.D. Bapna, sir is the professor and head Department of Gynecological Oncology, BM Jain Hospital, Bangalore, and was the former head of the department in Kidwai Memorial Hospital, Bangalore. Dr. Seema Gulia is professor in Department of Medical Oncology, Tata Memorial Hospital, Mumbai. And Dr. Samir Rastogi is assistant professor, Sarcoma and GIST Medical Oncology Clinic, AIMS, New Delhi, and was formerly consultant in Tata Memorial Hospital, Mumbai. One of our inspirator is Dr. A.F.M. Kamaluddin, Scientific Secretary, Oncology Club, and our always from very beginning of this program, our inspirator, the Professor Dr. E.M.A. Haisar, sir is the president of the Oncology Club. Now I request the president of the Oncology Club and chairperson of the today's session, Professor E.M.A. Haisar, to give us permission to start the program, sir, please.
Thank you, Sana. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Very good evening to everyone, all the participants. With special thanks to our faculties from abroad, Dr. Amita Maheshwari, U.G. Bafna, Seema Gulia, Samir Rastogi, and our today's presenters, Aina Sultana Mukta. All the colleagues, good evening. I think without any delay, we should go to discuss our problems here. Thank you very much. Okay, Sana, start.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Routinely, we start with the poll questions. I request Tanya to show the poll question, please, Tanya. And for every question, there is only 30 seconds, please, Tanya. This is the end of the phone questions. Now we'll go our main the program. Today, our presenter is Dr. Sahin Sultana Mukta. I request Dr. Sahin Sultana Mukta to go through your presentation. Sahin Sultana Mukta, please.
Ma'am, am I audible?
Yes.
Honorable Chairperson, respected panelists, distinguished foreign faculties, and learned audience, Assalamu alaikum, and a very good evening to all. She is a 21 years unmarried young girl, attended in emergency department of Chittagong Medical College Hospital at midnight with the complaints of severe abdominal pain and vomiting for 2 days. She had a history of periodic abdominal pain for the last 1 year and weight loss for the last 3 months. She had no personal or family history of breast, ovarian, or colon cancer. On examination, her ECOG scoring was 1. She was moderately anemic. Her breast and thyroid examination revealed normal, and there was no accessible lymphadenopathy. On abdominal examination, a mobile firm tender large mass about 10 into 6 centimeter in size, occupying right lower abdomen, and a mass is felt parectally. Ultrasonography of whole abdomen revealed right adnexal complex mass 10.5 into 8.5 centimeter in size and abdominal paralytic lymphadenopathy. Regarding her tumor markers, CA 125 70 unit per ml, carcinoembryonic antigen 72.62 unit per ml, LDA 772 unit per ml. CT scan whole abdomen shows large right malignant ovarian tumor 15 into 8 centimeter in size with peritoneal carcinomatosis, perigastric and paralytic lymphadenopathy, bilateral minimal pleural effusion and minimal ascites. Her chest X-ray posterior anterior view reveals pleural effusion. Endoscopy of upper GI tract and colonoscopy both are normal. Ultrasound-guided FNC from right adnexal mass revealed adenocarcinoma.
So I request Dr. Shushmita Sarkar to go through your question. Shushmita, please.
So on CT scan, she had no enlarged pelvic lymph nodes, but paraortic lymphadenopathy. What may be the cause? Professor Bafna, sir. Sir.
Okay, this is a young girl, 23 years old girl, coming with very advanced malignancy. She has got paraortic lymphadenopathy. She has got pleural effusion. So very unusual presentation for an epithelial ovarian tumor because the CA value also is very high. So I would like to rule out GI tract cancer here first. And first, the question is, what is the cause for paraortic lymphadenopathy, but without enlarged pelvic lymph nodes? This is possible when the tumor is confined to the ovary, because the ovary is drained to the aortic lymph nodes. So it is possible that patient can have without involvement of pelvic nodes if the pelvic organs are not involved by the malignancy. So it is not very unusual. Although involvement of pelvic node is very, very common in ovarian malignancy because of involvement of the pelvic organs. But if the pelvic organs are not involved, there may be patients coming with exclusive paraortic lymphadenopathy, but it is very unusual. So in this case, CA values are very high, and CA 125 is not very high. So, and you have done an endoscopy, upper GI endoscopy and lower GI endoscopy, both are normal. In spite of this, I would like to consider GI primary. I think got to consider primary in the appendix, which is very, very difficult to diagnose. Many times patient can have a primary in the appendix presenting with such kind of features at this particular age, younger age. So you must think, you must consider the diagnosis of primary in the appendix also. Okay.
Ania, সবাইকে মিউট করেন না প্লিজ। Okay, next.
So her CE and LDH both are raised, but on FNAC it was adenocarcinoma. What is the cause of disparity, sir?
Yeah, as I mentioned to you, it's very, very unusual for serum CA to be very high. LDH is a non-specific organ. It can be raised in any malignancy. So I don't give much importance to LDH. But once the CA is very high, I'm a bit concerned. I have to rule out something in the GI tract. And because, as I mentioned to you earlier, because the endoscopy is normal, lower GI normal, in this particular case, I would like to consider primary in the appendix here, because CA 125 values are not very high. Okay.
Next. Oh, she had perigastric lymphadenopathy, but normal endoscopy. Is there any relation of ovarian carcinoma and perigastric lymphadenopathy, sir?
Yeah, the patient has got involvement of aortic nodes. So I think from aortic nodes, it could spread to the upper aortic nodes also. You can have involvement of the nodes along the celiac artery and celiac vessels. And then probably you can have involvement of the perigastric lymph nodes also. But very unusual presentation. 23 years old girl, very, very unusual presentation.
Any other comment from any other faculties?
So I absolutely agree with what Dr. Bafna just said. I mean, I'll also think on the same line, and it eventually boils to doing immunohistochemistry, because biopsy is just adenocarcinoma. It doesn't, give a clue to whether it's primary ovarian or primary GI. So, and as Dr. Bafna said, appendix is especially appendicular masses are very difficult to be seen on endoscopy. Invariably, your endoscope may not reach, or you will not see the, that area. So I would also consider a possibility of either it's an appendicular mass. And I think, the other thing is if the endoscopist is not well trained, not in this case, but otherwise linitus plastica can also be missed. So, so these two things one has to keep in mind.
She lost her weight in last 3 months. She lost 3 kg weight. Why not tuberculosis? Why not?
So the other thing is, it is FNAC. I think, in such cases, at least a biopsy has to be done. FNAC is not, pathologists may struggle to give a proper diagnosis. So I would suggest a biopsy.
I agree with ma'am that biopsy plays a very important role. At least CK7 and CK20 can tell the site of origin. The immunohistochemistry cleans the diagnosis, maybe.
Yeah, and if at least a biopsy, not FNAC, signet ring histology, all these things may not be possible on FNAC alone. So it's a large mass, fairly big mass. We should get a biopsy.
So yeah, I agree with Dr. Amita. I think because the presentation is very, very unusual, for proceeding with the surgery, patient has to be counseled.
The other rare possibility I would consider malignancy in a dermoid, somatic malignancy. So which can present, you can have a high CEA, although rare at this age, but then that's another possible differential I would keep. If it's primary ovarian, it could be somatic.
Yeah, so like Amita said, FNAC may not be very reliable. Okay, so adenocarcinoma diagnosis has to be reviewed by a biopsy. So I would like to do a diagnostic laparoscopy first in this particular case to visualize all the organs and if possible take a biopsy and probably will get a better idea about the origin of the cancer. You may have a look at all the other organs, you may have a look at the appendix, then you can decide your further line of management. Whether to diagnostic laparoscopy has to be converted into laparotomy. So I think I would like to do a diagnostic laparoscopy first, take a biopsy, and if everything, all the organs are normal, appendix is normal, then probably I will go ahead and do a laparotomy. But having said all these things, I don't expect a good prognosis because epithelial ovarian cancer at this age, they are usually very, very aggressive.
Yeah, I think Dr. Jibril has put it be a dysgerminoma? It's possible because we really don't have biopsy. I think biopsy, at least that's minimum required. But you know, generally CEA is not raised in dysgerminomas, which is pretty high here. So,
and the CT scan picture is not telling with dysgerminoma because I think, if I remember correctly, this is mainly a cystic tumor. Whereas in dysgerminoma, you have solid lobulated masses. So a very typical appearance on CT scan or ultrasonography scan. So dysgerminoma are mainly solid. You may have cystic areas, but here in this case, the mass is mainly cystic, and you have some solid areas. If I'm right.
yeah.
Sure.
Right. The only thing is, I think we have to remember that on FNAC, it may be difficult to differentiate between epithelial and germ cell tumors.
Yeah, right.
So you may not, you know, adenocarcinoma does not rule out germ cell tumors if it's just a FNA diagnosis.
I know.
Next. Okay,
So, ma'am,
yeah, what is discussed? Yeah, everything.
We already discussed our, you know, next line of action.
Next. Okay, thank you, Dr.
Thank you all
Sudhana.
for patience hearing.
Okay, stop your sharing. Yeah. Sahim, please stop your screen share. Okay. Our next presenter is Dr. Sadia Jabin Khan. Dr. Sadia Jabin, please go through your case. Sadia, please.
So do we have update on this case, Dr. Shana? Or are we moving?
No, she's admitted.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So I think the least we should get a biopsy and at least, you know,
Yes,
FNA is not the best unless you are planning a surgical intervention.
Dr. Shahana, can I add something?
Yes, we have too many cases. Please be short.
Just in short, I am Janatul. So thank you for giving me the chance to say something. Actually, in this case, I completely agree with Dr. Amita that this may be a case of, initially a case of dermoid, and she experienced intermittent pain for 1 year. And maybe there is subsequently development of malignant transformation, metaplastic transformation. This is one thing. And another thing, actually, I deal with such type of patient just last week. And similar type of patient, that carcinomatosis was not there. So I did the surgery with frozen biopsy, and the biopsy revealed as lymphoma. It was actually lymphoma. So this young girl, I think we can keep the mind of that, because it was completely in all the reports, good center, all the reports were suggestive of ovarian cancer. CA-125 was completely normal, only 19.9 was raised, and LDH was raised. So you can think of lymphoma.
Right, NHL,
also.
yes, but it's all especially can, you know, present like this. So
Yeah.
Non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Sadia, please proceed, Sadia.
Honorable, am I audible, madam?
Yes, you are.
Honorable Chairperson, respected learned faculty members from home and abroad, and learned audience. I'm Dr. Sadia Jabin Khan from National Institute of Cancer Hospital Research and Hospital, now presenting my case. My patient, 26 years lady, para 1, living 1, underwent appendicectomy with left-sided oophorectomy on 2013. She was trying to conceive for last 3 years. During her fertility workup in 2020, a oophorectomy revealed uterine fibroid. Myomectomy was done. A myoma 5 into 7 centimeter was removed from anterior uterine wall, and right ovary was found cystic, and cystectomy was done. Her histopathology report shows diffuse anaplasia and large areas of coagulative type of necrosis. Mitosis are present 20 to 50 high power feet, and histopathology report goes in favor of leiomyosarcoma, and differential diagnosis is spindle cell sarcoma. Her ultrasound fibroid uterus, but histopathology report after myomectomy was leiomyosarcoma. Can leiomyoma from leiomyosarcoma by imaging?
Yeah, I think the diagnosis of leiomyosarcoma at this particular age, normally we don't think about leiomyosarcoma. Very, very uncommon to see leiomyosarcoma in patients like this. And imaging can only give you a clue. There is no diagnostic test for leiomyosarcoma. You have to have your complete clinical picture, including the serology. You may have raised the serum LDH markers in leiomyosarcoma, but again, it is not very specific to leiomyosarcoma. An MRI scan may be useful. It might reveal infiltrative margins, which are unlike leiomyoma. Leiomyoma are well encapsulated, but leiomyosarcoma, you can see not very regular, and you can have abnormal vessels, resistance index. That there is no diagnostic test. Even you can miss an MRI scan, you can miss leiomyosarcoma. The diagnosis is made only after surgery, as in this case. So very, very difficult to diagnose leiomyosarcoma preoperatively.
Yes, sir. Then this patient came to our outpatient department on 2nd January 2021. On examination, we found the patient was obese. Her ECOG score was 0, no lymphadenopathy, and no palpable abdomen. On parvaginal examination, an irregular mass continuous with uterus fell through anterior fornix. This is her MRI report. There is a fibroid 2 into hanging in the uterus. It may be the previous lesion. This is my point, the pedunculated fibroid or remnant of the lesion. Her chest X-ray peer view shows normal, and serum CA-125 also within normal limit. So now in this condition, what further management?
So I have a question. What is the immunohistochemistry of this patient? Like, was Desmin, Vimentin, and this Caldesmon, was it a positive? Because the age is a bit unusual. Had been poor lady, perimenopausal lady, then like I think.
Sir, we have done.
What is the immunohistochemistry for her?
Just a minute.
Sir, we are.
Just a minute, Sadia. Always we are not able in that some areas, and always we are not able to do immunohistochemistry. In that situation, what will you do?
So in this case, if you go back to the pathology report, can you go back to the pathology report? Pathology shows that 15 to 20 mitotic figures per 50 high power fields. It's not per 10 high power field. That means it comes to around 1 to 2 per 10 high power field. So it's not very high mitotic figure.
Yes,
So
it is.
basically, I think it is not a high-grade leiomyosarcoma because mitotic figures you are counting here per 50 high power field, not per 10 high power field. If you take 10 high power field, then it comes to around 1.5 to 2, I think. Or maybe it's not 1.5. Maybe I think it comes to around 3 to 5 per 10 high power field. So I think we are dealing with a low-grade leiomyosarcoma, even though many people don't believe in grading leiomyosarcoma as low-grade and high-grade. But in clinical experience, I have seen, we do experience low-grade and high-grade leiomyosarcoma. So this may be a case of a low-grade leiomyosarcoma or atypical leiomyoma, cellular leiomyoma. I would like to have immunohistochemistry because in young patient coming back with recurrence, that means the mass was not excised completely. So she has recurred in, I think, how many months she has recurred in?
So 3 months.
3 months she has recurred. She has recurred in 3 months' time. Immunohistochemistry about sarcoma. Also, I would like to do estrogen and receptor study. If ERPR study is ERPR are positive, and then you have to counsel the patient regarding the management because it's nulliparous woman.
Para 1 leaving 1 issue.
Para 1, I think. Para 1, I think then probably you are better to go for hysterectomy. Better to go for hysterectomy because patient with they're not sure about the diagnosis. Maybe low-grade sarcoma, maybe high-grade sarcoma. Since paras, I think better to go for a hysterectomy.
But I think CT scan chest should be done. I think only X-ray has been done. CT scan chest has not been done. So it should be properly staged.
Yeah, of course. It has to be
If you are going
staged.
for any
Of course, you
surgery,
have to stage
as CT scan be done for
before-
chest. Yeah, because only X-ray was shown.
Yeah, of
Yes,
course,
sir.
you have to do a staging, either PET scan or you have to do a CT scan of and pelvis and thorax before proceeding with the surgical management.
Yes.
And best option would be if the disease is confined to the uterus, the best option would be to do hysterectomy.
What
And,
I am concerned is that, see, they are all spindle cell tumors. And even rhabdomyosarcoma spindle variant might look like this. Even PICOMA might look like this. So it is a very young age. Probably we need to see some alternate diagnosis. Uterine leiomyosarcoma, we hardly see at this age.
Yeah, I agree with the. I think if even like IHC, I don't know if it's possible or not, but another histopathology review by an oncopathologist is absolutely required before we remove uterus of this young lady. So I think because this histopathology is from a peripheral center, I guess, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so maybe a confirmation because as Dr. Bapna very rightly pointed out, that's whatever 15 to 20 per 50 high power field. So mitotic count is not very high. The only thing is and of cells, but I think it's a good idea to confirm diagnosis before planning any surgical intervention.
Sir, is there any role of uterine sarcoma?
yeah, why I think absolute contraindication if the disease is uterus and anyways he has had and if the tumor is not very big, minimal invasive surgery should not be a problem because you should be able to remove the uterus intact. I don't think minimal invasive surgery is contraindicated.
So
You have a
this
widespread
is,
disease.
in this case may not be, but otherwise, you know, if you are dealing with large leioma, suspicious pregnancy, I think it's best to open surgery because any manipulation, morcellation, you know, if it's a big fibroid, you may not be able to remove it in and pulling it through vagina increase the risk of spillage and spread. So in this case, when there is a tiny whatever residual recurrent disease, one can MIS, but if it's a large myoma or which is suspicious, I think it's best to go for open surgery.
Yes. I would like to agree with Amita. Definitely,
Thanks.
last tumors better not to do invasive surgery. Should remove the tumor intact, not morcellate while pulling it out through vagina. So better
In
to
fact, power morcellation is almost banned in US for this reason, because there are sarcoma, thinking leiomyoma were morcellated and patient developed disseminated disease, and a couple of them were like doctors and so for all these reasons one has to be very careful doing MIS and morcellation, especially in so-called leiomyoma.
She underwent laparotomy on 11 February 2021. Paraoperative findings were uterus was 12 week size and infected myoma was found on anterior surface of uterus. Right fallopian tube and ovary was buried in pouch of Douglas. A chocolate cyst 3 to 3 centimeter was in right ovary. With this paraoperative, what type of surgical treatment should be done?
Okay, now you are thinking in terms of infected myoma. Okay, but I think
But
in
our histiocytoma.
no, intraoperatively,
Yes,
you are
yes.
thinking that it is an infected myoma. Okay, you are not thinking in terms of leiomyosarcoma recurrence. Okay, so but I would like frozen.
Frozen section.
I have to do a frozen section actually. Again, it depends on whether how you have counseled the patient. Whether you have counseled for hysterectomy, is she willing for hysterectomy? Is she willing for hysterectomy? It's not a problem at all. I'm going to remove the uterus. But in case he is not willing for the hysterectomy, and I'm thinking in terms of a low-grade tumor, then probably infected myoma only could be excised and sent for frozen section. And frozen section, although not very accurately, not very accurate for sarcomas, if frozen section also shows infected myoma, then probably I think you may be able to get away with preservation of the uterus. But ideal treatment would be hysterectomy. So all depends on the counseling.
Yeah,
Yes,
I
sir.
agree with Dr. Bafna. I think it's very important to have a clear diagnosis before surgery. So if we are sure that it is a leiomyosarcoma, we will go ahead with hysterectomy. Intraop, you may feel it looks like a leiomyoma. But if you have a confirmed diagnosis of leiomyosarcoma and something which has recurred within 3 months, then I think there is a very high chance of then we will consider it as a sarcoma. The only question will be in this young lady whether we'll remove ovaries or will preserve. So in a leiomyosarcoma, it's not important. I mean, ovaries can be preserved in early stage disease, but again, as Dr. Bafna said, maybe a good idea to have ER/PR on the tissue before, and some of these sarcomas may be estrogen dependent, but otherwise ovaries can be preserved in a young patient with leiomyosarcoma if they are grossly normal.
We have done total abdominal hysterectomy with right-sided salpingio-oophorectomy and left-sided salpingectomy. Sided oophorectomy was done previously. Now the question is, if the role of pelvic patient.
No, there's absolutely no role of lymphadenectomy in leiomyosarcoma unless you have a grossly bulky nodes. Normally, you will not get nodes in leiomyosarcoma. So if there are no retroperitoneal space to look for the nodes, palpation is the retroperitoneal nodes, and you find a bulky node, then bulky nodes may be removed. Otherwise, absolutely no role of lymphadenectomy, pelvic or paraortic. There's no role of removing nodes in sarcomas, leiomyosarcoma especially. Even endometrial somal sarcoma, there's no role of doing lymphadenectomy.
This is our final histopathology report after hysterectomy, total abdominal hysterectomy. It is benign, and while there is no anaplasia in uterine wall, and it wall is proliferative phase. So review of the slide was done, and it also reveals leiomyosarcoma low grade.
Yeah. So my suspicion was correct.
Yes, sir. Yes, the suspicion was correct. As there is disparity between the 3 reports, we again review this report, and the review report was frequent mitosis are seen. One of the margin is involved, and there is a cells showing diffuse anaplasia and large area of necrosis. And the report goes in favor of spindle cell sarcoma. And immunohistochemistry was advised for categorization. In immunohistochemistry, BCL2 immunoreceptor was positive, TLE1 immunoreceptor was positive. So the final diagnosis is monophasic synovial sarcoma.
Dr. Samir was correct. Samir, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Would you like to comment here?
Ma'am, it would not be, unless until translocation X18 is positive, it is probably not synovial sarcoma. There are other uterine sarcomas which might look like monophasial synovial sarcomas that are much more common.
And do you think
So
it is
probably they need
important
to be ruled out,
to
including
get a
rhabdomyosarcoma.
diagnosis? Yeah, is it important from treatment point to differentiate between synovial sarcoma and other sarcomas?
Yes, ma'am. Because if it is rhabdomyosarcoma, irrespective, patient has to be given 1 year of chemotherapy. And the
Right.
chance
I'm asking for the benefit of audience, actually. Yeah,
yeah,
please.
yeah. So, ma'am, also like synovial sarcoma is such a rare thing at like in uterus. Perhaps we hardly see this. So other sarcomas like SMAR CA4 or rhabdomyosarcoma, these are the ones which happen in younger population. So probably they should go for some better immunohistochemistries. This age is not certainly uterine leiomyosarcoma, and synovial sarcoma X18 they can do. SSX, SYT. The translocation is obviously done in Tata and AIMS, but I don't know if Bangladesh does it. Like they do it.
Then what will be her further treatment?
I think we are very clear that further treatment depends on the correct diagnosis. So,
Yeah.
On the diagnosis.
Our tumor board decision was chemotherapy, ifosfamide, carboplatin, and mesna. And what will be her treatment if she develops recurrence?
We will discuss this.
Again, the whole thing depends on diagnosis. Correct diagnosis is very important. Carboplatin is not given in sarcomas. So you can leave aside carboplatin. It's not effective in most of the sarcomas. The drugs which are universally effective are doxorubicin, ifosfamide. So perhaps carboplatin has no role.
yeah, if anything, I think we'll just give single lesion atria.
Yeah. But ma'am, diagnosis is something which is
Right.
probably still not right.
Yeah, if you are thinking in terms of rhabdo and all, then it's very different. Treatment is protocol will be very, very different than if it's a leiomyosarcoma. So we really need a diagnosis.
Then we have to do another immunohistochemistry.
Translocation testing, X18.
Yes, sir?
Let's see.
X18.
And another
Translocation.
Yeah, already advised to her. Yeah.
So we have already have. And what
You
will be
can
her
see it in
further
India, it's very cheap here.
treatment?
It's like in India. So, and a lot of centers do it. So you can just send it to India.
Sir, if this patient recur,
Diagnosis.
what can?
It's already completed. Yes.
Right, interesting case.
Yeah, it was.
I think unusual cases, I think you cannot is concerned. I have nearly sarcoma of the uterus. I remember seeing synovial sarcoma of uterus.
We have seen few cases, but I said, it's after excluding everything else and having diagnosis, but they're extremely rare.
I don't know how many cases have been reported. I have to do a literature search and find out how many cases have been reported in the literature.
We do have a few cases.
Maybe I don't remember. Maybe I've seen. I don't remember at all.
Sadia, stop your screen share.
Thank you for patient sharing and fruitful discussion. Thank you, ma'am.
Our next presenter is Dr. Sushmita Sarkar. Sushmita Sarkar, please.
Are my slides visible?
Yes.
So respected chairperson and foreign delegates and my teachers and my senior and juniors, good evening. She is a 51 years hypertensive lady, para 1 living, underwent hysterectomy with bilateral salpingectomy on 8th April due to uterine leiomyoma. On histopathology report, it came as leiomyosarcoma. Tumor size is more than 5 centimeter. The tumor was confined with the myometrial cavity without involving endometrial or serosal layer. Mitotic figure was more than 18 per 10 high power field and LVSI was identified. So histopathological picture of the tumor is atypical mitosis with cellular pleomorphism, tumor giant cell, coagulative necrosis, and Mason's trichome stain positive. So the slide was reviewed and the report came as leiomyosarcoma conventional or spindle cell type. So leiomyosarcoma in her case came as an incidental diagnosis. So CT scan of the chest done and it reported bilateral lung metastasis. So which image is preferable, MRI or CT scan of whole abdomen? Amita ma'am.
So, are you asking for metastatic workup? I would prefer a PET CT in a case of sarcoma. If we are looking for primary characterization of uterine mass, then MRI is the best modality. But if you are looking from metastatic workup point of view, I think PET CT. That's my preference.
If already CT test already done.
Okay, so you want to do something for abdomen, CT
Yes.
scan abdomen and pelvis?
Something for abdomen and pelvis.
Okay. In this scan abdomen and pelvis. She's post hysterectomy and now you just want to see other structures. So CT scan abdomen and pelvis.
MRI of whole abdomen done and revealed multiple hepatic metastasis. So what would be her treatment now?
So Samir, I would refer her to Samir.
Yeah. So as you said, she's 51-year-old. What is her performance status? Is she performance status 1? How are cardiac functions, renal functions, how is she doing in general? Is she well preserved? Performance status 1, good cardiac functions.
Everything well. Everything well.
Everything fine. So it could be either single agent doxorubicin or ifosfamide plus doxorubicin. In uterine sarcomas, they are probably more sensitive to ifosfamide than other cancers, than other sarcomas. So we prefer, and a lot of people across the world prefer ifosfamide plus doxorubicin plus Mesna, considering that her performance status is fine. And we can give 3 cycles of ifosfamide plus doxorubicin plus Mesna. And after 3 cycles, we can do response assessment by CT scan again.
So she was advised 6 cycles of chemotherapy with ifosfamide and doxorubicin. So after 5th cycle of chemotherapy, CT scan of the chest revealed left lung lesion was increasing in size. Is there any role of PET scan, ma'am?
Not really. We have already done CT scan. I don't think PET scan is really needed. It is showing definite progression.
So PET scan of abdomen revealed the lung lesion, left lung lesion is due to residual fibrosis. So she completed her 6th cycle chemotherapy on 15th August 2020. 2 months after completion of chemotherapy, PET scan of whole body done, and it revealed left lung nodules has increased in size, but right lung lesion remained the same, and hepatic lesions remains static. Now, what will be her management? Amita ma'am.
I think I would take opinion from Dr. Samir.
Yeah.
If it has progressed on ifosfamide doxorubicin, then and convincingly if it has progressed, then probably pazopanib or gemcitabine docetaxel, Gemtex. So either of these can be tried in second line, or even trabectedin can be tried. However, because trabectedin trial was mostly in more than second line, so pazopanib or gemcitabine docetaxel are fine. As you said that ERPR was only 2%, so it's not worthy. More than 90% is something we try hormonal therapies. So perhaps gemcitabine docetaxel or pazopanib.
I think I would like to slightly differ here. If I was asked to manage this particular case, initially she had liver metastasis. So we are dealing with stage 4 leiomyosarcoma. And chemotherapy has never shown to improve survival in leiomyosarcoma. And we know that we cannot cure this patient. So I think best supportive care also is an option here, apart from palliative chemotherapy. You can give palliative chemotherapy, but I think the best supportive care also should be an option. And when
Sir,
the
right
patient
now
is
there are, sir, I'm sorry to interject. Right now there are FDA approved agents in last 5 years. There are at least 4 or 5 FDA approved agents, including pazopanib, including trabectedin. We have paper also on trabectedin, in which patients show almost 2 years responses. So right now, pazopanib, trabectedin, gemcitabine, docetaxel, ifosfamide, and currently olaparib and immunotherapy. So perhaps performance status 1, totally palliative care would be very counterintuitive, where so many drugs are available and FDA approved, and so much advances have happened. Probably at this point of time, I don't know that the best supportive care would be a good option. I think we should try our best. She's PS1.
Next.
Yeah, I think we would also at least if this patient is in good performance status and there is some response, I think liver lesions have disappeared now in subsequent imaging. Liver lesions are not there. So we would also at least second or third line, till second, third line, we would go in a young patient who is in good performance status and willing to take treatment.
normally we oncologists would like to do something definitely, but we know stage 4 leiomyosarcoma, the prognosis is not very good. So as I mentioned to you, we can definitely try palliative chemotherapy, but we don't see very good results. We have many FDA approved drugs. We have pazopanib, you have ifosfamide, trabectedin, like Dr. Samir mentioned. You can try, definitely you can try. But I think overall prognosis is not very good.
So metastatectomy by video-assisted thoracoscopic surgery of left lung lesion done on November 2020. So what next? Follow-up or palliative chemo radio?
I think we would give chemotherapy after surgery. Second line chemotherapy.
To Professor Bafna, sir. No. Next. So there is a gap in her follow-up due to COVID rise. So Chest City on March of this year revealed the left lung lesion has reached 4 into 4 centimeter lesion.
Oh, but during this period, somebody was advised for just for wait and see, and somebody advised for chemotherapy. And due to COVID pandemic, patient did not receive the chemotherapy.
I think, correct me, Samir, if I'm wrong, but we would give chemotherapy if we have done surgery, and if there is tumor in the lung tissue, we wouldn't just leave her alone.
If tumors there, like nodules are there, I think 7 mm nodules, which are obviously they are not benign. Simultaneously, given that patient had many lung nodules at baseline, so probably chemotherapy should.
I think Samir, some problem with
though this is palliative chemotherapy, it's her choice that she might say that I want. Am I audible?
Audible.
Am I audible? Yeah. So, ma'am, what I was saying, this is palliative chemotherapy. Ideally, we should give if some nodules are there, because eventually they are going to increase. But if
Right.
it can be delayed for 1 or 2 months, and looking at she has 7 millimeter nodules still, multiple nodules, I think like it might be given. But though palliative, so 1 or 2 months here and there might not make a difference.
So second-line chemotherapy docetaxel and gemcitabine started on 15th March 2021, but she had to discontinue the therapy due to severe wheeze after second cycle. So what is the cause of her wheeze? CT scan on April revealed complete collapse of left lung with hyperinflation of right lung. She then underwent second surgical intervention, that is laser debulking through bronchoscope to remove secondary tumor extension into her left principal bronchus, but the procedure was not successful. Then she followed by 10 insertion of radiotherapy. So, ma'am, can she be a candidate of hormone therapy as ERPR expression is only 2%?
So unlikely that hormone therapy will work here.
Universal cutoff is ERPR more than 90%. If it is there, like
2%, I think it's too low for any meaningful.
2%, though, I don't think that. I think Pezopenib or Trabectedin can be tried.
Yeah, Pezopenib can be.
In fact, there is a paper about BRCA2 that 10% of patients BRCA2 is present. And in AIMS, we have just received grant for BRCA2 in uterine leiomyosarcoma somatic, and Olaparib works very effectively. Like currently, all the patients who were given in that paper responded. So anyways, but this is after Pezopenib and Trabectedin.
So, trabectedin is in our subcontinent?
Sorry?
In our subcontinent, trabectedin is used.
Yeah, we have
We
papers
use.
We don't know in
of
Dhaka it's
Trabectedin,
available or
multiple
not.
papers. In fact, one is coming. It is very often.
So Pezopenib is, are we talking about Pezopenib?
No, not only Pezopenib. It's for the Trabectedin.
Trabectedin and Pezopenib.
Yeah, the patient is
Pezopenib
now.
is not available, but we are using Pezopenib.
Sushmita, next.
She is now on Pezopenib.
Yeah, she is now on Pezopenib. And
So her recent CT scan thorax, abdomen, and pelvis revealed her liver lesion has increased in size and left lung mass grossly remained unchanged. So any comment from Amita ma'am?
you use Trabectedin in your institute, Dr. Amita ma'am, please.
Yeah, we do use, I mean, in very few cases, but we use Pezopenib quite often. Trabectedin, very limited experience. Maybe Dr. Samir can share his experience with
And
Trabectedin.
we are using it Trabectedin, and we have few reports and one original. I've shared that report, and we use it, and it is very less toxic medicine, very less toxic. Just that there is to use it, and we are using it in daycare. Like we put a PICC line, it's
Okay.
24-hour infusion. We connect it through diffuser and just go home. We don't even admit. And you can get BRCA done in case Olaparib is available there.
How many days will she continue the Pezopenib?
Unless disease progression.
Yeah.
No, yeah, only Pezopenib, or will you advise her the Trabectedin?
I will advise Trabectedin.
Yeah.
If patient,
Yeah.
right now patient is stable, nothing is happening. Is it stable disease or increasing? Marginal
Yeah.
increase is there.
No, disease status, you just see that disease status is a hypodense lesion measuring about 2.3 into 2.4 centimeter. That is disease is progressive disease, I think so. She
Yeah, if
received
it's
second
progressive,
line
then
chemotherapy.
Trabectedin might be tried.
Yeah.
Shahana, will I add something?
No.
And BRCA2 can be also this done.
Okay, we'll advise her BRCA. Yeah.
BRCA too. I can share the paper. Just I'm sharing the paper of BRCA. You can just
Yes.
see the paper.
Yeah. Next.
So, but that hepatic lesion may not be progression. Is that the impression?
Yes, yes.
I think also very important to monitor her clinically, and we should be able to give good
Yeah.
quality of life.
So, Amita, here I have one small comment. The problem is sometimes, as you mentioned, there are some new lesion or some small few millimeter progress
Right,
should
absolutely.
not
Yeah.
be considered. It should be
Yes.
mixed with the clinical, because if we jump on, come to a conclusion, it is not responding, take a new drug. We don't have so many drugs in hand. So we should be cautious and judicious from jumping from one product to another, because slowly we will be exhausting all the resources.
Right.
So,
I think if there is clinical improvement and few millimeter size change should not, immediately we should not change to another line of drugs.
exactly. That's what I'm telling, that always only some radiological progression of few millimeter or half centimeter should not be issue if the patient is clinically stable, because we need to wait. And I mean, we can finish it, then we cannot go to trabectedin and again come back to preservative. We cannot go like that, to and fro we cannot.
I think by definition, progression, I think increase in 2 millimeter or 3 millimeter is not called progression.
Yes.
I think you have to measure the dimensions, and if there's a 25% increase in the dimensions, then only it is called
Yes, sir.
progression. Otherwise, just marginally increase size, it is not
Yeah. So
progressive
the
disease.
longest diameter should be more than 30%. The sum of longest diameters by racist.
Yeah. Ania.
Ania, mute correct.
I think the case is said it.
Any role of any type of any promise of any immunotherapy there? New word.
In leiomyosarcoma, there is a paper by Dr. Suzanne George from MSKC, which was published in 2018, and they found that in 12 patients they gave nivolumab, not even a single response. So the response might be there, 5-10% might response, but the rate is very less. And PDL1 and all these are not surrogates.
Okay. Then we have another case. Our next presenter is again Dr. Sadia Jabil, please. Sadia?
Yes. Am I audible?
Yes.
I'm Dr. Sadia Jabin Khan from National Institute of Cancer Research and Hospital, presenting my second case. A 30-year lady, para 1, living 1 child, presented with a complaint of menorrhagia for 1 year, dysmenorrhea for same duration. With this complaint, she consulted with the gynecologist and advised for ultrasonography. Her ultrasonography finding reveals uterus is bulky inside, a complex mass having solid and cystic measuring 11 into 10 centimeter in involving the posterior myometrium and endometrial cavity. She underwent myomectomy on 26 April 2021. Her histopathological report reveals leiomyosarcoma.
Go through the details. The histopathology microscopy.
Spindle cell neoplasm showing fascicular arrangement, necrotic cell, mild to moderate pleomorphism, hyperchromatic nuclei, and frequent mitosis. Features are compatible with leiomyosarcoma. Can we proceed, ma'am?
Yes.
With these findings, she was referred to National Institute of Cancer Research and Hospital for better management. We found her ECOG score was 0, mildly anemic. Her parababdominal examination, there was nothing abnormality detected, and her pelvic examination, uterus was bulky, 12 to 14 week size. This is her CT scan report, an irregular enhancing mixed density mass lesion measuring about 10 into 8.5 centimeter, 10 into 8.5 centimeter noted in the uterus. This is the mass. Now the question is, what will be her next management plan?
Again, 30 years, para 1, living on.
Age 30, para 1, living on.
Leiomyosarcoma.
Yes,
She is 28 years old.
30 years old.
30 years old.
Para 1, living 1.
30 years old, and she has had only myomectomy, and we have a clear-cut diagnosis of leiomyosarcoma. And CT scan shows again patient is having enlarged uterus with a uterine mass.
Large mass, 10 into 8
I
centimeter.
think planes between the rectum and the uterus are maintained.
Yes,
And plane
sir.
between the
Plane between
uterus
rectum and
pelvic
the
walls.
uterus maintained. This is the plane.
Maintained, yeah. Okay. Side walls also? Is it going into
Yeah,
the
side
wall?
doors also. This plane is maintained.
Also, everything is okay?
Yes, everything.
Yes, yes, sir.
I think just extending up to the side wall, I think.
So that plane is maintained.
I would like to, yeah. So you can see the iliacus muscle, psoas muscle, you can see that they are free. And rectum is also free here. So I think it is possible to resect this tumor. So you should go in for laparotomy and remove the uterus. You go for a hysterectomy. And whether to preserve the
I
ovaries
think
or
she's
not. Yeah, you may preserve the ovaries because according to the books, you may preserve the ovaries. But my personal opinion is that because 30 to 40% of the leiomyosarcomas are ER/PR positive, I would like to remove the ovaries also, along with the tubes and the uterus, because leiomyosarcoma is aggressive cancer. In stage 1 also, 50% recur in spite of chemotherapy. So I would like to give the best possible chance. And because we don't know the ER/PR status, I would like to remove the ovaries also in leiomyosarcoma, especially which is recurred like this. So I will go for hysterectomy along with bilateral salpingo-oophorectomy. But if you want, you can preserve the ovaries. There's no harm in preserving the ovaries. But in my personal opinion, better to remove the ovaries because 30 to 40% are ER/PR positive, and they may be estrogen dependent.
Yeah, I think
So
it's
you
a
may
very
remove the ovaries or you may
large
preserve the ovaries.
mass, so I agree with you. Only thing is, I think we will do chest evaluation by CT scan before proceeding with surgery. So I don't know whether chest thorax was done or not. A CT scan thorax.
Definitely, before doing surgery, we have to rule out any metastatic disease. Presuming that disease is confined to the uterus, you have to go for surgery and remove the mass completely.
So message is, if there is any type of sarcoma, before proceeding the final management, we must rule out the metastasis, that is CT chest, CT abdomen, everything. Yeah. Next.
So,
Yeah,
Amita,
because lung
as
is
it
a
is a
very common,
sarcomas
the
tissue,
lung is a very common site for metastasis in sarcomas. So CT thorax as part of preoperative workup in a sarcoma is
And
important.
again, 30-year-old IHC should be done. Like we should be very sure it is leiomyosarcoma.
so my
Right.
question is,
So
as it is a sarcoma having a big risk of metastasis, is there any additional benefit of doing PET CT for metastatic workup?
yeah, I mean, we often ask, I mean, this is one place where we ask for a good quality CT, abdomen, pelvis, thorax, or a PET CT. So both ways it's fine.
Review of the slide was done and immunohistochemistry was done also. In immunohistochemistry reports, CDTN was positive and desmin focal positive. So it goes in favor of low-grade endometrial stroma sarcoma.
Yeah, so now it fits in low grade. In age group is at least it happens in 30s endometrial sarcoma. So it fits into it.
So the
So like
diagnosis has changed.
Changed.
Yes,
Diagnosis is changed from leiomyosarcoma to endometrial stromal sarcoma.
low-grade endometrial stroma
And
sarcoma.
so is her
Initial diagnosis was
prognosis.
leiomyosarcoma.
Then what will be her next management?
So if there is no spread beyond the uterus and everything else is clear, low grade ESS will keep under observation. And I think ovaries were removed, right? Were ovaries removed or not?
So, is there any role of ovarian preservation? We have not removed ovaries.
Oh, so again we have to do ER/PR, and majority low grade ESS are hormone receptor positive and sensitive. So maybe there is a place to remove ovaries here.
be removed.
It should ideally ovaries should be removed either if surgically or medical or whatever, but we would prefer doing a surgical removal of ovaries.
So we should go to sacrifice her ovary.
Yeah.
Yes.
Isn't it, ma'am?
Yes. In ESS, yes, we remove ovaries.
Does this ovarian preservation influence her prognosis?
Already removed.
So yes, there are enough reports suggesting that if you do not remove ovaries, there is higher risk of a recurrence, but most these recurrences are salvageable by surgery. So overall survival is not affected, but there is increased risk of recurrence if we do not remove ovaries in a case of low grade ESS. So that's one where ovarian removal should be done.
If she wants to preserve her uterus for second pregnancy in this patient,
No,
okay.
you have to counsel this 8 and 10 centimeter big mass. I don't think there's any role of uterine preservation.
Yes. Next.
There are very few reports where conservative surgery has been done, and so maybe a few patients have conceived, but those are strictly under experimental situation, and I don't think it's this mass is very big recurrent one, so there's no role of uterine preservation.
Last week she underwent total hysterectomy with bilateral salpingo-oophorectomy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As patient age is only 30, and should we advise her hormone therapy?
In terms of, you are talking about hormone replacement
Hormone,
therapy or
no,
anti-estrogen?
Hormone-
Endometrial stroma sarcoma.
Is it
So-
adjuvant setting?
Yeah.
Are you
Yeah.
talking about adjuvant setting? Adjuvant.
Yes. For adjuvant. Yeah.
Adjuvant.
And this is stage 2 or stage? It comes out to be stage 2. After
One.
that, stage 1.
Stage
Stage
one.
1B.
What is the size? And only stage 1 only. No?
10 into 8 centimeter.
Stage
Okay.
1B.
Yeah.
There's only one paper to suggest that adjuvant hormonal therapy is beneficial in stage 1B. And the majority of people will give in stage 2 onwards. I can share that paper also.
Right.
It can be given in stage 1. Though we give it sometimes after discussion with patient, that risk of recurrence is their stage 1B. So, and many of them take it. So it's totally, in 1, it is totally a call. In 2, it should be given.
Okay. And after surgery, yeah, her report was after
surgery.
surgery. There was nothing seen in her uterus, endometrium, nothing seen, and everything was, no malignant cell was seen. Is it possible?
Ma'am,
What was
Amita
meant-
ma'am, do you give it in stage 1B?
No, we are talking about, no, one second. We don't give in stage 1B, but we do give, like, you know, what you said is advanced stage at presentation or metastatic recurrent setting we give. Letrozole is our preferred drug. But what did you say, if nothing is seen means what, Dr. Shahana?
No, she has undergone total hysterectomy with bilateral salpingo-oophorectomy, and her histopathology report, no malignant cell is seen.
No, but we were seeing that big uterus, what Dr. Bafna was asking, fixed here and there. So what was all that?
Oh, all was normal. Everything, the pelvis was clear. Just the uterus was, size of the uterus was around 12 week size, and there is ovary, both ovaries are normal. Everything was normal parameter. Everything, side wall, bladder, everything was normal, and that's this smoothly total hysterectomy was done.
Then I think we won't give. We'll keep it in reserve in case she recurs in future. We won't give her adjuvant hormonal treatment. Do you agree with me?
Yes. Yes, always.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely. No adjuvant therapy is required. This is confined to the uterus, low-grade endometrial stromal sarcoma. They generally do well, and we don't require any kind of adjuvant therapy.
Also, it is important to counsel these patients, like this patient, you know, because there is nothing seen in the uterus now, but based on her first report, there was an indication for doing a complete surgery. So patient may question, why did you remove my uterus when there was nothing? So I think counseling is important, and we have to justify saying that there was an indication for hysterectomy and oophorectomy, because there was a confirmed diagnosis of low-grade ESS in that myomectomy specimen.
Yeah.
Yes.
Anything more? Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am.
On the end.
Yes.
We have another case.
We have another case.
Yes. Please stop your slide. Yeah. Our next presenter is Dr. Rumana Afrouz.
So Shahana gathered all the sarcoma case today.
Yes. Because we have the sarcoma specialist.
Lifetime chance of getting the sarcoma specialist.
No. For giving more importance, I gathered all this sarcoma today, so that you can get the interest. Rumana?
Madam, I'm just preparing, just 2 minutes.
During this time, I have a question to Dr. Sami. In the second case, that is leiomyosarcoma, that is lung metastasis, the liver metastasis, she is on prazopenic on last 1 month, and she is interested for trabectedin.
I couldn't hear. I think there was some problem in connection. Can
Yeah.
you please repeat, ma'am?
Our second patient. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
She is now on the prazopenic. Yeah. And do you advise her to continue this drug, or do you like to say what?
No, I think as we said, no, that the progression was 1 to 2 millimeters.
No,
If the
no,
progression
2
was
millimeter. It is 4.3 into
very less, so how did it not fit into progressive? No, it is the size. The progression was hardly there. That's what we're discussing, no?
Yeah.
So if progression is not like according to RACIST criteria, response criteria in solid tumors, then perhaps you might continue same because trabectedy is not available there. So better to continue till it is clear-cut progression.
So if trabectemy is available, will you suggest or to start it now or wait for?
No, wait for.
Yeah.
Wait for an obvious progression.
But yeah, for next line would be sooner because now it has started progress. The progression, imminent progression is happen. So maybe after 2 months we have to prepare or 3 months we have to prepare with next option.
So your suggestion is that we watch her until we are justifiably progression as per RACIST criteria, then to switch to trabectemy.
Yeah, RACIST criteria, it's good. Maybe sometimes it is the progression is so slow on pazopanib that we have patients where progression is so slow that they carry on for 6 months.
So after 3 months?
6 months.
No. When will you advise her imaging? After 3 months of
imaging? After 3 months, what I am saying is maybe it can persist longer, like maybe it remains on pazopanib for a long time.
Okay.
So you are suggesting that we use pazopanib by some time as much as we can, and when it is having an obvious progression, switch to the next one.
Yeah. Or symptomatic progression, like in lungs if cough is increasing.
But she has the exertion, there is distress on exertion and everything. She is not quite okay. Yeah.
So if symptoms are there, 2D echo should be done because with pazopanib, there is fall in ejection fraction. If you see palette trial, there was fall in ejection fraction in pazopanib. So, and she received doxorubicin also. So get a 2D echo done.
And she had surgery. She had a surgery. She had a lung surgery.
Yeah, so I am attributing to surgery also. Surgery was also done. But just make sure that 2D echo is also normal, which might be contributory to her breathlessness. Echocardiography.
Okay. Rumana?
Am I audible, madam?
Share your screen.
Is my screen visible?
Yes.
So I'm honorable chairperson, learned faculties from home and abroad, and my colleagues and seniors. Assalamu alaikum. This is Dr. Rumana. I'm going to present the last case presentation of this tumor board. This patient is 49 years, hypertensive, diabetic, hypothyroid lady, para 2, living 2. She was suffering from excessive parvaginal bleeding during menstruation for 5 months and dysmenorrhea for same duration. She did not give any history of intermenstrual pervaginal bleeding. She has no personal or family history of malignancy. She consulted a gynecologist who advised her at transvaginal sonography, which showed two hypoetic lesions are seen within the endometrial cavity. One is 14 into 9 millimeter in posterior fundal wall and 18.12 millimeter in anterior wall of the uterus. Endometrial sampling with endocervical curettage was done in September 2020, and histopathology endocervical tissue was unremarkable and endometrial tissue atrophic changes. Now, question is further evaluation is needed for endometrial mass?
Yeah, because I think the patient has got menorrhagia for a long time, and you do not have any material. You do not have any endometrial curettings. And the ultrasonography scan shows two polypoidal lesions. So the most common diagnosis would be endometrial polyp. And unless you remove the polyps, patient is not going to get complete relief from her symptoms. So she is going to have recurrent abnormal uterine bleeding unless you remove the polyps. So ideally, I think probably I would like to go in for hysteroscopy examination of the endometrial cavity and do a polypectomy.
Thank you, sir. This question is already answered. So patient was still suffering from her PV bleeding. So hysteroscopy was done in December 2020, and a well-defined polypoid mass visualized in anterior wall, 2 into 2 centimeter. Mass was mobile and firm in consistency. Rest of the uterine wall was normal. Removal of endometrial mass was done, and it was sent for histopathology of the mass showed features compatible with endometrial stromal sarcoma, low grade. Now, question is, what may be the factors for failure of detection of endometrial stromal sarcoma by endometrial sampling?
Yeah, sarcomas are difficult to diagnose sometimes. They are not as friable as carcinomas. So ordinary curettage definitely can miss endometrial stromal sarcoma, especially if it is arising in a polyp. Non-friable tumor, you can miss by endometrial biopsy. Whereas endometrial cancer, 97 to 98%, you don't miss by endometrial biopsy. Only 2% to 3% you can miss endometrial cancer by endometrial curettage. But sarcomas arising in polyp, you may definitely miss by an endometrial curettage or endometrial biopsy.
Okay, thank you, sir. Does hysteroscopy has effect on disease spread or disease upstaging?
Yeah, it is. I think there is a paper where it has been shown that after hysteroscopy, and especially under high pressure, there may be a spillage of the fluid through the fallopian tubes into the pouch of Douglas. And this is, I'm talking about endometrial cancer. So you can have endometrial cells in the pouch of Douglas when you take pelvic washings. Okay, but what is the significance of these washings? These washings may not be very, very significant. So FIGO has removed this as a prognostic indicator. So hysteroscopy, I don't think is going to cause any problem as far as prognosis is concerned.
Sir, what should be her management plan?
Yeah. Now, how old is she? How old is she and what is the parity?
49 years, para 2, sir.
Yeah, 49 years, para 2, diagnosis is straightforward. I would like to go for hysterectomy, TH and BSO. And because we have diagnosis of sarcoma, there's no need to remove the lymph nodes unless they are bulky. So you can do a open TH BSO if the uterus is big. If the uterus is small, it is possible to remove it intact. Then you can go for a minimally invasive TLH and BSO. Uterus is big, go for open TLH and BSO.
Thank you, sir. Should ovaries be preserved? I think the answer has given. If the age of the patient was around 30, then what should we preserve the ovaries?
No, it is already discussed.
Already discussed. Yes, sir. Thank you. So with this report, patient was referred to NICRH, and in February 2021, patient was mildly anemic, echo score was 0, all vitals are normal, and in pelvic examination, cervix apparently healthy. It was 10 week size mobile, no adnexal mass, and parametry was free. So MRI of whole abdomen was done, and which showed residual endometrial malignancy 18 into 15 millimeter, less than 50% myometrial invasion was seen. Endometrial myometrial interface was poor in left lateral wall, and no extracellular invasion, no lymphadenopathy. Here are some MRI images. We reviewed the slide, and the slide review showed endometrial stromal nodule.
Okay.
Now, the question is how to solve the discrepancy.
I think endometrial stromal nodule is more benign compared to endometrial stromal sarcoma. So probably the polyp which you removed had endometrial stromal sarcoma, and the uterus had endometrial stromal nodule. That is what I can make out from your pathology report. So uterus is having endometrial stromal nodule, and polyp which you had removed had endometrial stromal sarcoma.
Samir, please. Dr. Samir.
Yeah. So if mitotic count is less than 5, then and there is no lymphovascular invasion, the tumor appears benign, then endometrial stromal nodule is thought of. But if it is more than that, LVI is there, then whatever is there, you have to consider it as ESS. Only thing is recurrence. The recurrence in endometrial stromal sarcoma is higher, and in endometrial stromal nodule is very less. But nevertheless, what's the mitosis in this case and lymphovascular invasion?
So mitosis less than 10 per 10 high power field.
So it should be less than 5 per 10 high power field to tell it. The definition of endometrial stromal nodule.
Thank you, sir.
So perhaps it is if it 8 or 9, then you will have to consider it as ESS.
It's written only less than 10 per 10 high power field.
Next.
So what are the
Anyway, I think in this case, it really, won't change your treatment plan.
Okay.
For a younger patient, yes, where fertility preserving surgery, like, if you wanted to preserve the uterus, it was an issue, but not in this patient.
Now, what are the basic pathological differentiating point? Low-grade ESS, high-grade ESS, and endometrial stromal nodule. I think it's mitotic count. Immunohistochemistry. Yes, sir.
I think there is some. I think a lot of pathological differentiation is there.
Okay.
Discrepancy is there. There's nothing like high-grade endometrial stromal sarcoma.
Yeah, that's just uterine sarcomas, what we call like endometrial sarcomas.
Yeah, undifferentiated sarcoma.
Undifferentiated sarcoma.
There's nothing like endometrial stromal sarcoma high-grade. Endometrial stromal sarcoma by definition are low-grade.
Okay.
But I've seen pathologists using the term endometrial stromal sarcoma high-grade. Okay, but actually that term should not be used. There's nothing like high-grade endometrial stromal sarcoma. They are always low-grade. They are almost always ER and PR positive.
Thank you, sir. So immunohistochemistry was done for confirmation, which showed ER positive, PR positive, cytokeratin negative, smooth muscle actin positive, CD10 positive, and Ki67 negative. And final interpretation was features compatible with endometrial stromal nodule. Sir, management, I think same, you have already told. if is there any scope of uterine preservation for women with endometrial stromal
Already
nodule who
answered.
desires fertility?
Yes,
uterine
you can preserve uterus in a young woman desirous of fertility with stromal nodule. Yes, you can.
Laparotomy followed by total abdominal hysterectomy with bilateral salpingo-oophorectomy was done on 17 February 2021. And final histopathology report showed uterine wall foci of adenomyosis with leiomyosarcoma, cervix chronic cervicitis, and no evidence of malignancy was seen. And now question is, should we...
9 years, yeah.
Ovaries?
Why?
She's premenopausal.
Nodule in case of endometrial
Stromal nodule. As this case, it is a case now is stromal nodule.
Yes, if it's a stromal nodule, you can, provided you have clarity on histopathology pre-operative, So if there's going to be discrepancy and post-operatively you are going to get a diagnosis of low-grade ESS, then I think it's better to remove ovaries. But if you are sure it is just a stromal nodule, ovaries can be preserved.
Does patient need to be followed up further? In case of stromal nodule.
Good prognosis unless they behave like a benign tumor. But if you have endometrial stromal sarcoma, I think better to have a follow-up. Even though recurrence rates should be low, because small tumor confined to the uterus, they are almost completely cured. So follow-up did not be very strict, but better to have a follow-up.
Okay, thank you, sir. Any contraindication of taking hormone replacement therapy postoperatively in this patient?
No, hormone-dependent tumors, endometrial stromal sarcoma, I think 1 year, I think. I would not like to give any hormone replacement therapy, especially estrogens, for the fear of promoting growth of any residual tumor which has been inadvertently left behind. So I don't like to give any estrogens, at least for a period of 1 year.
No, I think Dr. Bafna, her question is if it's a stromal nodule only, no low grade.
Yes.
And if ovaries were removed, whether would you give HRT or not? The answer is
I think no harm. No harm.
Yeah, you can give, but the question is otherwise, how many women you do give HRT in your country? So at 49, I don't know how many women they actually require HRT. But if she has acute symptoms, if you want to give HRT for short duration, you can give. But otherwise, anyway, routine HRT is not being practiced, at least, in our country. So I think
it's also not in our country.
Yeah. So if she has acute symptoms of ovarian removal, then I think short course of HRT can be given if it's a stromal nodule. Not if it's a ESS, no.
Okay. Thank you, madam. Here I end. Thank you, everyone, for patient hearing.
Thank you. Interesting cases. I think Dr. Giri is there. Or...
Yes, Giri sir, Ahuja sir. Giri sir, please. Have you any comment? Giri sir, please.
Dr. Ahuja is also there.
Dr. Samir, you are dealing with only sarcomas?
Samir has left, but he is dealing with sarcomas.
Okay, very good. So he has got very in-depth knowledge about sarcomas.
Yeah, so he deals with all kind of sarcomas, and he was with us before. Now he's in AIMS.
It was nice listening to him. It was quite clear.
Mm-hmm.
Very nice listening to him.
Another meeting, so he had left in the.
Okay.
So you got interesting cases and unusual.
Now we move.
Yes, probably Giri sir and Ahuja sir, they left. Yeah. All left. Yeah. I think all left. Yeah. I'm calling the Chittagong Medical College. আপনি কি আছেন? Okay. Thank you very much. We are waiting for the presenting medical college from Chicago Medical College, but they are busy in another program after completing their session. Now I request our scientific secretary, Dr. A.F.M. Kamaluddin, to comment on this today's program.
So it was definitely learning me. And I mean, we don't find sarcoma regularly, but when we find it, it is a nightmare for the whole team, not only for the surgeon, also for the oncologist. So I think today's discussion was very interesting because we should avoid the overkill and we should not overkill. So that was the message. So we should have a proper diagnosis, a proper decision, and we should be judicious about using our resources. So thanks, Shahana, for collecting so many interesting cases, and thanks to all the faculties for attending us. And hopefully our juniors will be like they will be.
You are muted. Amal bhai, you are muted.
Yeah, I have finished. Thanks to all. I mean, we can move to.
Before ending our session, I will again show our poll questions. Tanya, please show the poll questions. All are requested voting at the end, and 3 winners will be selected. So 65% correct answer. Next.
আমার পেছনে খুব ভালো আছে 117/76
Okay.
আইন দেখবা
Okay.
হ্যাঁ কোথা
Next. Next.
আসো বাবু করে চলো আসো একদম ভালো বলতে না তুমি আমার আসো সবাই খাচ্ছে
Dr. Farhan Akhtar, will you please mute your microphone? Dr. Farhan Akhtar, please mute your microphone.
Okay. Thank you for voting in the 4 questions. Now request our president and today's chairperson, Professor Dr. A.M.A. Haisar, to conclude the session. Before that, I would like to thanks to the faculties today, Dr. Samin, Professor Dr. Amita Maheshwari, Professor Dr. Bapna sir, and all. You are always with us. We are always grateful to you very much. Thank you very much for attending the sessions. Sir, please.
Thank you, Sana. Very, very nice evening today. Lots of discussion about the one of their famous sarcoma. Just lots of discussions took place. I think our faculties have taken quite good pain for discussing these things. Our participants have learned much. So thank you very much. We're now at the end. Hope to see you again next Tuesday. Okay. That's all for me. Goodbye, everybody. Allah Hafiz.
Thank you. Tania.
Yes, so the next of the presidents.
Requested attend our workshop on the gestational trophoblastic lesion, and it will be on the
Dr. Ayman Sayyara, Dr. Humaira Begum, and Dr. Ifsit Monik. Is today's winners.
6th, yes, it will be on the 6th July. So all are requested to attend the GTD workshop.
On 26th. Okay. Fine.
July, sir.
Okay. Bye bye everybody. Close कर दो.